Welcome to McBoss Capital channel. My name is Michael Chu. This is a US market recap video for the July 11, 2025. We're looking at the index here, Nasdaq, and we're seeing that we have a really good week actually. After last Friday's off day, which make new high on Thursday. So right here, and Monday we gapped down. It was yeah, that was not a good day. Let me just double check here, July 7, and down 0.9% for Nasdaq. But we did recover throughout the day here, throughout the week. I mean, it was able to hold the 10-day right here. You see the green line. And Wednesday, so Tuesday, Wednesday we bounced, so that was a gap up. And we actually, I believe we make new high there. And then Thursday, we make a little slightly high. Friday, it gave back very little, but it couldn't make new high. So let me look at intraday chart for a second here. It looks like this is starting to become a resistance level, but overall, it still looks good on the Nasdaq, right? But let me jump to QQQ, which is the weighted 100. And we're seeing this one a little bit lower on Thursday and Friday. So it didn't hold up as well. And you can see the highs here. Here's another high on Friday right there. So so we have lower highs. But again, it's still minuscule. That maybe is not a concern, right? But anyhow, the index are generally holding up better than most, than in the index are holding up better. We'll talk about the growth stocks a little bit in this video, but most of it will be in the next video where I go through my growth stocks list. We are seeing more growth stocks deteriorate in terms of the momentum. So make sure you watch that one. But like I said, in this, we'll cover some of the major mega cap growth stocks. But yeah, right here, this is the QQQ. If you look at QQEW, just to see, this one looks a lot worse because this is equal weighted, the top 100 Nasdaq, and look, it's already making a lower low than a week ago. So, so this is something like more negative because that means the breadth have, deteriorate in terms of more stocks participating in the rally. And also the fact that, you can see the RS line right here, it hasn't been really good. So that also tells you is not participating as well, right? This is the Nasdaq 100 equal weight. Looking at the weekly chart on Nasdaq Composite, again, looks very healthy. Like it doesn't seem like anything negative has happened despite all the tariff news. And it closed near the top of the range. So this market, the index, and anyway, again, I want to separate the index from the actual growth stocks that we usually look at because the index is much resilient and much stronger. Yeah, so the S&P, very similar chart. We are quite extended from the red line, the 50-day, right? So that's the same with Nasdaq, I believe. So, okay, so this one looked a little bit less compared to S&P. For S&P, it's quite extended. So I don't know, it could be due for a pullback. Like, so here's the last time it was quite extended right there. So, and then we had a one big pullback week here, which is not too bad, that 1 week. But yeah, it's quite extended. We'll see what happens. Let's just go to daily chart here. Very similar action. It was down, less on S&P, but yeah, both Nasdaq and S&P did have a distribution day on Monday, but like I said, it did recover from there, on Wednesday, starting Wednesday, Thursday, and then Friday here we see a dip again. So this is a gap down. So this one looked a lot weaker than Nasdaq, because it never really came back, right? So that looks a little bit weaker. I don't like to say, oh, this is a top right here on Thursday, because we don't know. It's so early to tell, right? But there are signs that in terms of breadth, things are slowing down, as well as growth stocks are also showing that kind of indicator as well, that more growth stocks have started to top. Not only top, and we'll see in the next video, a lot of them are now under the 10-day moving average and deteriorating quite fast. So you could give up your gains very fast is what I'm trying to say. So just watch out for those. Sell, take some gains if you have them. Like just don't give it all back is what I'm trying to say if you have some gains. This could be a buy the dip mentality. It's another opportunity as this rally continue to it's a long rally now, right? We have bottom April 7, now we are past July 7, so July 11, and that's about 3 months and 1 week into this rally, and so it's definitely past the average length in terms of rally. 2 to 4.5 months is generally the length usually for most rallies. So yeah, it's all about risk management. If your reward if your reward outweighs your risk, then obviously you want to put more money to work. But if the reward is kind of less than the risk, then it doesn't make sense to be heavily invested, right? So yeah, it's always good time to think about some profit taking, or at least cut some of your weaker ones and stuff like that. The Dow, you can see Dow here came down on Monday. The gap down wasn't as bad, but it did close, at the bottom range, and then so Wednesday we start to bounce, but and then Thursday we have a much stronger bounce, but we never make new high. That's one thing. Second thing is Friday look, it kind of closed near the bottom, like of this channel line down here again. Like it hasn't moved at all this whole week. That's the problem. So this one looks a little bit worse because it closed at the bottom of the range. Yeah, Russell weekly chart also doesn't look too bad. It closed in the middle range. This one also had a good week. It made new high on Thursday, so it was able to bounce back from Monday's drop very fast. And by Wednesday, we already closed at a new high, and then Thursday, yeah, we followed through. But Friday was a bad day. It down 1.25%, came back all the way down. Now we back down to near the 10-day again. So the 10-day is a guardrail, in the last few weeks. So we really want to make sure, the pullback is fine, but we have to make sure the guardrail is there, that they can hold above it. If we start to fall through it, then easily we can come to the 21-day. And then from there, if we do fall through that, we're gonna, probably go for the 50-day. I do want to mention this. I saw on Friday IBD Live. If you follow that, I already forgot his name. There was a special guest, but his research show in the last 21 years, before September 1st, generally, the last 21 years, 20 out of the 21 years, we have a pullback to 50-day in the summertime. That is a very interesting fact. Again, I don't remember which index he was using. I'll have to go back and watch it. But yeah, I just want to bring that up because if we do fall back to the 50-day, that's a pretty big pullback from where we at. So just be cautious if we do have a summer correction here or pullback, whether it's 5% or even up as much as 10% on the index. Then yeah, growth stocks will suffer a big drawdown, and usually it drops 2 to 3 times the average index. So yeah, just be cautious about that. We're gonna jump to Innovator IBD 50 ETF FFTY here. This IBD 50 growth stock had been very strong rally. It hasn't made new high, but it has come a long way from this correction, which is a very deep correction, 33%. But this week we seen a little bit change of behavior. We have the biggest down week bar, right? So that's one thing, and it closed way at the bottom. So that's another thing. So very different than what we saw on the index, right? Because this is pretty negative here. And look at the volume, pretty high, right? Now it could be a one week thing, right? We could bounce back next week, but we will see. This is the 50-day trend line right now, which is pretty steep because, like I said, it's been running for 12, 13, how many weeks there? Yeah, it's close to 12 or 13 weeks there. So from the bottom, but if we look at the daily chart, very similar action. We have found support at the 10-day many times, right, since the rally, and now we're starting to test the 21-day now. We're starting to come down to 21-day now. So if we fail that, then obviously we're going to come to this 50-day line, right? Which is right there. And again, we still have quite a way to go if we do fall the 50-day. whether this is so last time, so one of the things that we always like to see is when it comes down to the moving average, does it come near it and bounce? That's the best sign. Or does it touch it and bounce? That's also, secondary, not the, still okay sign. And then the third is it goes below it, but then it never bounced back. That's negative, right? So here we have a day, Thursday, we went below it slightly. And then Friday, we gave up on that line and we went to 21 day. So, and the duration and how fast it bounced, it matters because you can see here, every time it touches it, it bounces. It touches it, it bounces, It comes near it, it bounces, right? It comes near it, it bounces. And then this one crossed it and came all the way to 21 day and look, it reversed on that same day. And then here we have, this one comes near it, this one touches it, bounce back the next day. Now, we are seeing a different change of character where not only crossed below it the day before on Thursday, and then Friday we never actually bounce. Instead, we go lower. So, with that being said, we're still okay. We're slightly below the 21 day, but we need to bounce on Monday, right? If we don't bounce, this will probably go down further. So, anyhow, so something to watch out for. Again, growth stocks are deteriorating, and I will talk more about that in terms of the trend in my next video. So on Monday, the news that brought the market down mostly was because President Donald Trump announced 25% tariffs on goods from Japan and South Korea effective August 1st. And then it also announced for other countries like Kazakhstan, Malaysia, South Africa, which is not low, right? 25%, 25%, 30%. And obviously throughout the whole week, more news came out, as they continue to roll out more tariffs that may be effective August 1st, including Canada and many other countries. I think Canada was 35%, and this is recorded Saturday morning. I just saw the news that they are gonna also roll out tariffs for EU as well, like 30% or something like that. So yeah, so much tariff, like the amount of tariff is not low. I mean, this is definitely higher than the 10% baseline tariff. And so, but the market hasn't reacted that much, right? Like in terms of the indexes. But the broad market, like I said, we are starting to see some coming down a bit. And then growth stock, we're seeing, much faster deterioration. So those are things to be mindful of. Then I think they also imposed 50% on copper imports. And I don't know if they announced this yet, but possibly even like 200% tariff on imported drugs. And then they also announced a 50% tariff on Brazil. Next, we look at the IBD newspaper, looking at the New York Stock Exchange advanced decline daily line here. Yeah, it definitely looking okay until Thursday, which makes new high here. And then Friday we came back down on S&P. And NYSE here. And then we look at Nasdaq. So Nasdaq also make new high on Thursday, came back down on Friday. So following the index, so looks okay. So we look at the trends that IBD signal. Right now they're still having 80 to 100% allocation. Over the week you can see Monday was down on tariff worries. Again, Nasdaq had 2 distribution days. S&P has 3 now. But we haven't had distribution days, for the rest of the week as the market mostly rebound. And yeah, they continue to make new highs on S&P and Nasdaq, and small caps and blue chips lag on Friday. So next we're going to look at the accumulation in terms of number of stocks in industry groups here. So yeah, so besides Monday, we basically saw accumulation throughout the rest of the week on the stock side. And same thing with the industry groups. We see like 58 industry groups versus 40 under distribution, and stocks we see 264 versus 184. So not a big amount, but those are the ones with volume. Then we go into the sector area. We see technology actually suffered by end of the week. It's down 33. This is net accumulation minus distribution. So that means there's 33 less stocks or more stocks under distribution than accumulation. And here we are the rest of the sectors still holding up, still in the green. They still have more stocks under accumulation than distribution. Retail and industrial show strength in the midweek, and same as financials on Thursday. But again, on Friday, it kind of deteriorated a little bit. The RSP equal weight S&P 500 earlier, very similar to QQEW on the Nasdaq equal weight. Make a high on Thursday, but also give back a lot on Friday. So again, we are back down to the 10-day line. So we'll see if we can bounce again. But if it doesn't, then yeah, it will be bad. It might break this, right? So just be mindful of that. So the next we look at the 10-year yield. This one has been slowly creeping up after breaking this trend line this week. So Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, we saw a big dump day, but Thursday, Friday bounced back pretty fast. So now we almost at new closing high again, or maybe it did, I don't know, but pretty close to it. So now we're back to 4.42%, so it's quite high again. So we'll see what happens next. The US dollar also, this is UUP bullion, US dollar index here. So it's starting to move up again. So this one, very interesting. It has moved up 5 days in a row now. So it definitely broke the 10-day and 21-day trend line. So next, it could be going for 50-day. We'll see. USO, the oil price here, we also see some bounce here. Thursday was a big drop, but look at Friday, it recovered pretty fast. So that's very interesting. It actually closed higher than the previous day. So this is a new high close too. The area also creeping up is gold. Sorry. So besides oil, gold is also moving to new recent high here. Breakout right there from a trend line. And silver break to new highs right here. That's amazing. Very strong move on Friday. And the copper make a significant move on Tuesday after I think the tariff on copper was announced, and then it has been falling through since. And look at this, even Friday, it just didn't want to drop. This index is moving really fast. So, and finally, we want to look at the Bitcoin, Grayscale Bitcoin ETF here. Look at it breaks out. It start moving on Wednesday, bounce off the 10-day, and it fall through Thursday and Friday. Friday making a all-time high. So yeah, Bitcoin is really moving right now. So the semiconductor all continue to make good progress. This week here, it gained 1.3%. So it did make another new high this week and close at the top of the range for the week. Here's the daily chart. Monday, we saw the dip, but then we bounced back pretty much most of the days here. And Friday, it closed pretty good too at the top of the range, near the top. So yeah, very strong action. So the one stock that is really making good progress right here is this breakout right here. And it pulled back slightly here on the 10-day, bounce the next day. Again, this is exactly the action you want to see on the bounce. Like usually it bounce the next day. And then right away, it continues to make new highs here. So you can see like it continued to make new high right here, including Friday. Very strong action. Next, we look at AVGO. This one also broke out recently. It pulled back after that, but then it started to move. It's not as strong as NVDA, but nonetheless, it still making new high on Thursday, intraday. It did come back down on Friday though. Next, we look at TSM. This TSM also break out early entry point right here, more recent entry point right there. And then it bounced pretty nicely and then pull back to 10-day, bounce again the next day. Exactly what you want to see. Then they pull back once more. So this time the pullback, it hasn't really take off, right? Like versus AVGO and NVIDIA. So we have earnings coming up. So earnings season starting. So you have to ask yourself, how much gains do you have on certain stocks? Do you start to take gains? Do you want to, go through the earnings, see what happens, stuff like that. But, right now I feel like there's more risk than reward in general. Sure, your stock can go up another 10%, or even more, depending what kind of stock it is, like how liquid it is. But what's the downside, right? Like if it miss and, give a lower guidance and all that, what will happen? So you have to kind of weigh all that. So generally, my portfolio is very low right now. Probably the lowest since, like I'm talking about like less than 10%, around 10-ish%, in stocks right now. The rest are all in cash, or even actually I have some short positions now. I have more net short positions now than long position. So that tells you a lot where I'm at. But with that being said, again, if your stocks are still working, then especially if you're a position trader, you can want to hold on longer. Yeah, see how this goes. But for me, I'm starting to have taken a lot of profit. I just don't want to give back too much, and then I'll just wait for better opportunities. Of course, they could keep going and going and going. You don't know when the top is. But I've learned from the past that after a good rally, generally is a good time to take some profit. So I've definitely sold more than probably most people have, and but I'm trying to be patient right now. So let's see what happens this summer. So here's TSM again. This one is not acting as strong as AVGO and NVDA. Okay, so this one, IGV software ETF. This one show also a change in character, almost like IBD 50, right? ETF, where it closed near the bottom of the week, right? And also, it's probably the biggest range drop since the beginning of this rally. The thing is, when growth stocks top, they drop very fast. That's one thing I've learned from all my past experience. And so that's why understanding, where the top is can really make a big difference in your portfolio performance. Because if you're up 25% and now you're giving back half in a week, there's something to be said about that, because it took you weeks to gain that 25% and now you give it all half of it back in like 1 week or so, right? So understand where you're at and understand, of course, again, I'm not saying it won't bounce back. I'm just saying that's what usually happens. If you can sit through that, great. But always have a risk management rule. And anyhow, so here we are. We broke out a week ago to new high, but this week we pulled back pretty hard on the software side. Very different than the semiconductors. And look at this, 2 days. Thursday, Thursday was the day when actually most index make new high, right? But yet the software group was actually getting hammered on Thursday. And then Friday it fall through. Like whenever you see that fall through, that's what worries me. Because normally, like I said, when you go to the 10-day, you want to see that bounce the next day right away. Instead, it goes the opposite. Not only did it not hold that 10-day, it breaks it and goes straight to 21-day. And now we are below 21-day. And 50-day is not that far away. Like usually when it's that close, it probably will test the 50-day too. So now, in a very short period of time, from this top here, we are already down 3.7%, which means growth stocks in this area could be down as much as like 7 to 10% now, right? And so those are things to watch out for. And then, yeah. So in this video, I usually only talk about the mega caps. So make sure you follow my next video if you want to see more of the growth stocks on my list, as well as I probably will be talking about growth stocks not on my list, because we are seeing even deterioration in the more speculative growth stocks, that are not on my list. So we'll talk about that as well, because there are lots of deterioration stocks right now. Here's Microsoft, obviously, one of the titans, really strong earnings growth. You can see here, almost double digit every quarter, making new highs still, even on this week, with the IGV down. So that just shows you how strong this stock is. They are there to capitalize on enterprise software AI, for AI, and looks really good going forward. Google also trying to come back up here after a fall a few weeks ago. Obviously not nowhere near new high, but at least it's not deteriorating. So this is probably why the major index are not down as much, like Nasdaq Composite, because the mega caps are holding up, better than other stocks, and because of their weighting, so the index didn't see the deterioration like we saw in IGV, right? And also semiconductors still holding up. So at least some part of the equation still holding up. So this is probably another reason. So Google still holding good. Meta down second week in a row. Not too much, slightly, but again, it's definitely underperforming the index right now. You can see in the RS line. So this one found some support after it crossed below the 10-day. So now we need to see it bounce right away. Amazon Prime, Amazon in general has the Prime days this week. Surprisingly, it didn't move as much as I thought it would with the 4-day Prime days. But it formed a 3-week tight pattern. You can see right here, very tight. So that is a positive structure pattern. So and then it broke out slightly on Friday. So yeah, so it did break out on Friday on stronger volume too. So maybe that's a good sign. Apple, we kind of reversed a little bit by the end of the week, right? So here's the chart right here. So we had a pretty bad drop on Monday, reversal. So that's always negative when you have a negative reversal. But also, I feel like the bounce is very weak, right? It didn't even come back to halfway point, so that's also negative. And here's Tesla, 2 weeks down below the moving average here, short-term moving average. So that definitely negative. The longer you stay below the short-term moving average, the higher risk you go lower, right? Because usually, especially on a stock like this where it's so much attention, you should see people coming back in right away after a drop because there's always people who are deep buyers, right? But this one, I mean, it did come back like to moving averages, but we'll see. Like we have made higher lows in the last weeks. I mean, higher lows in the last week, so that's a good sign. But it's just it just looks a little bit suspicious here because yeah, it's just taking a long time to even come out, right? But at least it's holding the bottom here. So this is the bottom channel line, so that looks okay. But yeah, of course, it's all about the robotaxi news and this one dropped on Monday because of the political party Musk will create and stuff. So again, the politics doesn't play well in this stock right now, with his involvement, but the storyline, the growth storyline is still huge. Robotaxi, of course, we know it's being tested out right now. So how fast they can roll out and succeed, that will be very important. Feels like there's a long-term trend line here happening somewhere around here. So we'll see. I think if it does break this upper channel line, that would be very, very positive. That's the longer trend line right there. So one stock that obviously got a lot of attention was the Squid Game from Netflix release, but since then it hasn't done much. It actually giving back quite a bit. Now we are down to the 50-day. That's actually surprising because most stocks hasn't come down to the 50-day, and now this one is slowly coming down to the 50-day. Not that far away from it. It did bounce a little bit on Friday, so maybe that's a good thing. Again, we want whenever we go below a short-term moving average like 10-21 day, we want to see it bounce right away. If not, they usually will go down to the 50-day, and if we come down to 50-day, same thing. We want to see if it bounce or not, right? So that's pretty much it for this video. I think general sentiment from my perspective is growth stocks are deteriorating. The market index are holding up better than most. Chips are doing better still. The commodities area also doing surprisingly better. Maybe because of the US dollar going up. I don't know. And as well as Bitcoin, right? That also doing well. So those are the areas showing strength. In my next video, I will talk more about a lot of growth stocks, including ones not on my list. The reason why I will talk more because I do see more stocks going down than up, right? And so that's the trend right now. So I think it's time to de-risk if you haven't, and going into this summer. So thank you for watching. Hope to see you there. Please like and subscribe.